Okay, class, hopefully a very quick lecture to kind of follow up on Roosevelt's critics. We ended up by talking about the Supreme Court, how they had struck down two of the FDR's New Deal programs. Well, in 1936, FDR wins a landslide election. His opponent gets 8 electoral votes, and Roosevelt is going to use this as a mandate by the people. The people love me, kind of like Andrew Jackson, if you remember those days. They elected me. They know what I'm all about. And so he's going to make his first mistake when he goes after the Supreme Court. All right. In 1937, he asked Congress to pass a law. I think it's technically named the Judicial Reorganization Act. The Judicial Reorganization Act. The Supreme Court at the time had an average age, the 9 justices averaged 71 years old. Right? And FDR's thinking was these guys are a little out of touch with reality. They don't understand the times. They're too old. Otherwise, they wouldn't have struck down my New Deal programs like the AAA and the NIRA. Okay? They're just not with it. And his proposal is this, that A, the Supreme Court justices need to retire at age 70. If they don't, the president can then appoint a justice to sit with them on the Supreme Court until the other guy does retire. So, kind of learn, the rules of the Supreme Court, so to speak, until this other guy kicks the bucket or retires. So at the time, out of 9 Supreme Court justices, 6 of them were over the age of 70. So FDR, in one foul sweep, could have appointed 6 Supreme Court justices, which is a huge power as it is, tremendous power. Okay? But at this point, even his friends said, hey, boss, checks and balances, you are out of line here. Is your name Franklin Delano Roosevelt, or is it Franklin Dictator Roosevelt? Because you're starting to sound like a dictator. When you're trying to control the Supreme Court, you are then messing with, Montesquieu's systems of checks and balances, which our Constitution is based on. Okay? His friends, obviously his critics, began to find fault with that, and you have a packet of 4 political cartoons that speak to this. And look for the clues. Remember, a political cartoonist doesn't do anything without a reason. All right, and there are several clues in there that have to do with this. It's officially called the Judicial Reorganization Act. History has come to call it Roosevelt's court packing scheme. Scheme, like in I'm trying to take over the Supreme Court type of deal. Right? It's going to fail miserably. And it's his first mistake. It's his first mistake since he's taken over office, that not just a few people, not just his few critics are going to lambast him for this, but even his friends are going to say, boss, you're out of line here. You can't do that. Because Supreme Court is a pretty sacred institution in that. So all that to say, he's going to lose some momentum here. And people are going to finally realize this guy is human. And we have to watch him. We have to watch him. Otherwise, we might have a Hitler on our hands over here. And I do like to draw the parallels between what was happening in Germany and what was happening here. When you reach rock bottom, and America had been at rock bottom, anybody that has answers, you might look to them. Germany turned to Hitler. He had answers. He put him back to work building his war machine. Okay? And FDR's New Deal, although we still have to go through the lecture of how successful was the first New Deal, had given Americans hope. It had seen some improvement in the economy and given Americans hope. And a lot of people were willing to follow him, and that's pretty evident in the election results of 1936. But here is his first big mistake. Okay, and so the court packing scheme, the Judicial Reorganization Act, is one of FDR's first mistakes, and it's going to impact politics down the road. So that ends up the 2 lectures on FDR's critics of his New Deal program. And next thing, we'll probably talk a little bit about the results of the first New Deal and compare it to FDR's second New Deal. Look for that one.